Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I have something a little bit of a treat for you, I think. This is a game that I actually didn't know hardly anything about. It's Space Megaforce. It's from the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And I had heard the name before, but I'd never played the game and didn't know much about it. And one day, Stinson actually recommended it. So what you're watching right now is some footage of Stinson actually playing the game. I did some research on the game because I just didn't know a lot about it, and like I said, this was my first time actually playing with the game, and it's just one of those little gems that I think kind of slipped through the cracks. This is a 1992 game. It was made by Toho. It's in Japan. It's known as Super Aleste, and there's another series. There's more to the series, but this was the first one on the Super Nintendo. This game is a little bit different because the versions have different things in them, from the American to the European and then to the Japanese version, and most of it has to do with story. The base story is pretty simple. A giant alien sphere comes down and, is doing bad stuff, taking over the world. And so they make this ship using some of the alien technology. And in the Japanese version, you find out that there's a human pilot and then an alien co-pilot who was a prisoner of the aliens who are attacking the Earth or whatever. And between the different levels, there were going to be all these different cutscenes and a lot of story behind this. And once you beat the game, you could beat it on harder difficulties to get even more of the story. I think there were 3 harder difficulties past normal. And there was actually a pretty long ending to it. However, for whatever reason, I guess they thought we couldn't handle it, or it didn't translate over well. Might have been some fun mistranslations, like all your base or belong to us or something. But it was all cut out of the version that we got here in America. The gameplay is pretty cool. As you can see, it's a scrolling shooter, and it's a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of 1942 and other games I played like that. It has a very interesting weapon system where you level up, and then the type of fire is changed not only by your weapon, but you have a shot control button that can actually change how you as the player can manipulate that fire. And that makes for some very interesting strategy points. To go with this, they also give you smart bombs, and the initials on the weapons show you which weapons you'll be switching to. And that reminds me a lot of like Contra style, how they used to do that if you were a big fan of Contra. Now, one thing I thought was really neat was that the player health is actually based off the level of your weapon. A standard hit deducts 4 levels from the overall weapon score. And you only die if you are hit with your level being at 0, which is kind of neat. You can also be squished and stuff like that in certain areas that are instant deaths, but that's stuff you'll learn along the way. They have lives, and then they have what's called special lives. And basically, with a normal life, you restart at a checkpoint, and then with a special life, you actually get to restart pretty much where you died, just a little bit back from where you died, which makes these special lives worth having because of progressing through the stages and stuff like that. There's some other items and stuff that you can get by, like, if you shoot a power-up enough, it becomes what's called an enemy eraser, and this enemy eraser actually takes the item and turns it into a small orb, and when the player touches it, it erases everything on the board. Overall, there are 12 different worlds to explore through this game, and those worlds have a good, they don't all look the same. They're pretty varied. It really feels like you're flying over the whole planet and into the alien spaceships and a bunch of different stuff to fight off the enemy. So they did a good job with that. The colors are very rich. The sound isn't bad. I actually am a fan of the music in this. The sound effects were good. I'm told that the Japanese version actually had a couple more worlds and also had more sound effects. Like apparently there were actually voice clips for the pilot and everything. The game was well received by critics, but I've asked around about it, and a lot of my friends had never heard of it. And although it didn't have a limited release here in the US, it just didn't apparently sell quite as well as they were expecting. A lot of people actually, once I kind of explained the game, seemed to think they remembered it. It's one of those things where you're not sure, but this is something that, at least for myself, I can say it really kind of slipped through the cracks, and I'm glad now to have discovered it. And it's an addictive little game. You die easily if you're not paying attention, but when you die, it's usually your fault. You usually realize that you did something wrong, and so that makes you want to go back and actually play it some more and try again. The only thing I think that's actually missing from this game is it seems like such a loss that it doesn't have some type of multiplayer. This is the perfect setting for two-player on-screen action, and maybe even do it with like a shared lives pool or something to keep the difficulty, since you're going to have two players. But I really think that would have been an amazing addition, and I'm going to do some research into the rest of the series after this, so maybe that's something that they added later on. Maybe they realized how awesome it would have been to play this with a friend. I will say that I recommend this. If you haven't played it, you should check it out if you have a Super Nintendo, or if you want to check it out on an emulator or whatever. Space Megaforce is not a game. It feels like a game that maybe like 14-year-old me would have thought was the best title ever. And I definitely will say I would have been a little bit more interested had the story actually been there. Unless, I don't know, the story could be horrible. We don't know what those in-game cutscenes were supposed to be like. I may actually try to find those. But I will recommend giving this a shot, and I'm glad Stinson pointed it out. I actually watched him beat it, and it's a really good game. So I'm hoping that maybe some of you guys will try it. If you have played this game before now, and you knew about it before, please let me know. I'm interested to kind of hear about that and see maybe your experiences with the game. Also, if you have any gems that you think might have slipped past me that you think I should look into, let me know. But until next time, have a good one.